and welcome to You Don't Have to Be Crazy, the 10-minute payroll podcast from Payslip. I'm your host, Ger from Payslip, and each episode I have a light-hearted chat with the people who make this industry what it is. And that's you, the payrollers, in the trenches, making sure that we all get paid. We celebrate the ups, the downs, the wins, the losses, the experiences, and yes, the occasional bit of madness that this industry throws up. Because after all, you don't have to be crazy to work in payroll, but sometimes it helps. My guest today is the very delightful Hannah Huneidi, hugely experienced global payroll professional and the current director of the California Payroll Conference. Hey, Hannah, welcome to the show.
Thank you for the very warm welcome. Absolutely ecstatic to be here today.
Yeah, I will say you were perhaps the most enthusiastic person that I've had on and the most enthusiastic respondent to my invitation. I feel like that's maybe a real window of insight into your personality and maybe even how you approach payroll, that enthusiasm.
Absolutely. I definitely take people by surprise with my cheer. I much prefer to start with cheer and then get into the super serious conversations, and even then try to almost always end on a positive note, even if it's
Yeah,
worst
I
case
like
scenario.
that. Now, when I was doing my research for this, aka snooping on LinkedIn, one thing that I discovered, which I thought was super interesting about you, is that you have a BA in psychology.
Honestly, I tried to finish college as quickly as possible, so I graduated in 3 years, and I found that there was somebody in the psychology department that would sign off on as many classes as you could take. So I beelined for him, asked for him to be my mentor and sign off on all my classes. So I finished with psychology.
Okay, so it begs the question, and I love asking this question to payroll people because everybody has a different story, and almost nobody I've ever asked, studied payroll or anything like payroll in college, and you certainly didn't. So how did you end up in payroll? What's your payroll origin story?
Oh my gosh, such a great question. And absolutely, I never thought that this would be a profession to land in. I had bookkeeping classes in high school. Again, it was an opportunity to get out of school early, so why not? And still get credits. Um, However, payroll is an ever evolving and ever learning environment, right? So came by fate. Honestly, the opportunity just kept presenting itself. I landed back in my hometown after college, got an opportunity to grow from filing papers in a cabinet to becoming the office manager and managing the payroll to then getting an opportunity to back to the Bay Area. And then that's just when my experience exploded.
Can I ask, do you ever find that your background in psychology comes into play, or has it been a help to you along the way? Do you sometimes find yourself in situations where you're like, I know why that person is thinking that. I know how we've gotten here. I know how to disarm this person.
Absolutely. If anything, I would definitely advise folks to consider it either as like a leading postgraduate studies if you've already gotten your BA, or just definitely dabble in some classes of it. I love my HR friends, and I know that many payroll people do not. But I love them because they do all the human talking that I never want to do. And having that psychology background makes them my friend because it's like, I get you. I promise I do. And I'm thankful that you do that so I can still do the numbers part, plus a little humanity.
That's a very diplomatic answer as well. I like that. We're not here to burn bridges between HR and payroll. That's definitely not what we're trying to achieve. So looking at your career, and you've had a great career to date, and obviously you've risen to director of California Payroll Conference. Can I ask, was there a moment, or has there been a moment where you really felt for the first time like, I've got this, like I know what I'm doing in payroll. I think I'm an expert.
Such a hard question. I feel and I challenge imposter syndrome every other day. I'm younger for where I am in payroll, and that has been hard and challenging within itself because I'm like, where are my peers at? And it's like, oh, okay, all right, level up, change the, way that I communicate. How do I communicate? How do I get deliverables out of my peers in the same level and experience that I'm at? But then also just kind of like navigating on a day-to-day basis, like, do I actually know my stuff? For the most part, but also at the same time, I'm not a one-stop shop, and I know that. But I probably know somebody who does know it, and that I'm comfortable with.
I love that answer because I think that's one of the common things that I've heard again and again from payroll people is that, especially right now, you don't need to be necessarily an expert in every single aspect. but you need to know what questions to ask, and you need to know where to go for the right answers. And that's as much a part of the skill set as understanding your legislation or even understanding how the technology works nowadays.
Absolutely. I do not promise to ever really truly decipher legalese. I'm happy to lean on my legal team wherever I'm at to do that piece, but I'm also happy to get and reach out and say, like, hey, I need the actual application of this law for people who are in this country. Who knows that? And being not afraid to ask those questions and ask for help. So that way you don't have to be a single source.
Was there a mentor or like a colleague that you worked with? And I'm thinking especially earlier on in your career that had an impact on how you go about your job, or just had an impact on how you perceive the industry?
I have had, and I am incredibly thankful to have a small village of fierceful women behind my back. They have helped me lead the path forward as far as channeling and changing my form of communication from a junior payroll person to being able to deliver to C-suite and VPs. I've had people that have blown my mind in the international payroll realm. I've had people help navigate how do I take my knowledge and share it with the community around me, and even those who don't even know that they have a community to outreach. So there's definitely been a village of folks that have helped pave the way.
What's the best career advice you've ever been given? Maybe it was from one of those particular mentors. I don't know.
It's a former boss of mine, and I'm still in really great relationship with her, and I tell her this all the time. Her advice to me was never say no. It's important to have boundaries, absolutely, but never come out right and just say, no, I'm not doing that. There's 1,000 other ways that you can say that and say, I really like this concept and I really like this idea, but maybe we can put this out for 6 months. Let's touch base on that in 6 months because I'm doing X, Y, and Z. And that's helping get payroll out the door. So I love this idea, but let's talk about it in 6 months and see if it's still real, like if it's something that's realistic that we can do together.
I feel like that piece of advice, armed with your background in psychology, makes you a conversation ninja, basically.
I have been told that I am a walking ChatGPT, which has a multinational kid, and English is kind of my second language. I'm truly honored by that title, and I will take it and run with it.
Yeah. I would take that as a major compliment for sure. What's your proudest moment in payroll?
Yeah, so like many payroll people, we are people pleasers at the core, whether we share that warm, fuzzy feeling or not. So many of us share that nature in common that we are there to please people. We are there for customer service. The last California payroll conference, I had the opportunity to sit in the hallway where everybody was checking out at the end of the event and to see longtime friends, new friends, gather around, have camaraderie, have great sense of community and self, and seeing people walk out the door cheerful after almost a whole week of education and networking opportunities, people who would never have met each other before, or people who look forward to seeing each other every year at this event. That was the biggest reward. And it's like, yeah, this is why I'm in payroll. This is why I like doing what I do. And this is why I like sometimes slamming my head against the wall, but it's all good. We just keep moving forward.
I love that answer because it kind of chimes with why we wanted to set up this podcast as well, because it is, I guess, about that celebration of community. Only people who've done the job know what the job is like.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, even for the folks that have elevated themselves out of the day-to-day tasks, they still support their staff. They still know how to do it. And you'll be surprised as to how many of those folks will roll up their sleeves and jump into the weeds and pay that blood price to get that net payroll out the door.
So over your career, what would you say is the most unexpected skill you've developed?
Project management. Never in a million, 1,000 years would I have ever assumed that at this point, I feel like I could get my PMP certificate after a couple classes and be like, yeah, I got this. The temptation is there, I'm not going to lie, but project management is key, not just as a leader or a participant within payroll, but even as an individual contributor. You have to manage your tasks. You have to prioritize the priorities, right? Sometimes it's 10 items that are all burning, that are all urgently important, but you still have to navigate and mitigate, okay, of these 10 burning items, how many can I accomplish today, right? Or this week? And then how do you effectively communicate that? Because that's also part of project management, and be like, this is why I can't get this to you in the next hour, but I'm happy to get to it.
Okay, that's the end of part 1 of my chat with Hannah Huneidi. Be sure to like and subscribe to listen to part 2 when it's released. Or if you're listening to this in the future, go ahead and listen to that right now.